All right, Lincoln Riley spoke at length, I'm joking, about suspensions, but he did talk about suspensions, and I know that that's going to trump signing day for most. We're going to talk about it after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You got to help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young, not on Step Milk. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today, Lincoln Riley wanted to talk about early signing day. He wanted to talk about how excited he was about this class, and he did get to do that to a degree. Talked a bit about the college football playoff and the Peach Bowl and perceptions and even Caleb Kelly. But the thing that you are here to find out is, what did he say about rumored suspensions? Well, I think it's safe to say now it's no longer a rumor. The way that this had worked, all right, to get this sequentially in order and linear, Lincoln Riley was asked, hey, what do you know about these suspensions? And he said, I can't comment on it. That's all I'm going to say. Which is not, there isn't one. It's not, there. That's untrue. It's not, that's a lie. None of that. Later on, Barry Tramel asked him what I thought was a really great way to ask these questions to get an answer, which was, well, will Kennedy Brooks play? He said, yeah, Kennedy will play. He asked, will Rhamondre Stevenson play? And Lincoln thought about it and said, Kennedy will play. Later on, it got even more testy as Lincoln Riley just didn't want to answer questions about the suspensions, and to the point to where he was asked, can you elaborate on these things because there's an appeal process? And he said, no, I don't even want to go that far. I can't comment on it. When I know something, I'll tell you when I can talk about it. And later on, John Hoover did what many people wanted someone to do, and I commend him for trying, just kind of go through a list that had been reported in multiple places. SoonerScoop came out with it and said, hey, Rhamondre Stevenson, Jonathan Perkins, Ronnie Perkins, Trejan Bridges, are those guys going to play? And Lincoln I'm not talking about it, all right? I'm just not talking about it. And that's where we're at right now. We're talking about at least three dudes that feel like they might have to miss this game, which is the biggest game of their careers. It's the biggest game for Oklahoma all year. And quite literally, this game means a whole lot more than any other college football playoff for Oklahoma because you haven't won one. And yeah, you had an opportunity to beat Clemson, you got beat. Yeah, you had an opportunity to beat Georgia, you got beat. Nobody gave you a shot to beat Alabama, and you got destroyed. Now, with LSU and nobody giving you a shot, the last thing you want to be is undermanned and not have the guys that you need to have to go and win a football game. And it feels like we're headed that direction. Now, in as far as how Lincoln and his staff and the rest of the team is going to prepare, they got no choice. They will prepare as they've always prepared, which is to play games without some of their best players, notably CeeDee Lamb in the Baylor game. But you cannot overlook the importance of some of these players. Ronnie Perkins, for many people, is the best NFL talent on the entire defense. That includes Kenneth Murray Jr. You look at Rhamondre Stevenson and you think of a guy that is a bruising tailback, the kind of guy that you can actually rely on to get you just those yards that not only you need on short yardage, but those yards that you need in the third and fourth quarter to either claw back into games or to put games away. And that essentially means that if Rhamondre Stevenson were to miss this game, that it'd be Kennedy Brooks, and then we're talking about TJ Pledger and Marcus Major, because Trey Sermon is out for the year. You're also looking at a guy in Trejan Bridges that they looked at it playing both ways, right? And this is also a report that Lincoln didn't substantiate and didn't confirm, but I would have loved to hear him say, no, this is not a thing. This is something that was invented by, I don't know, LSU message boards or even OU message boards or whatever. But there are good people working on this beat, myself included, who knew something. And yeah, some of those names that crossed our minds, but I didn't feel comfortable talking about it until Lincoln decided that he needed to comment on it. And by decided, I mean he was asked a question, he gave a comment that was non-committal on either way, and we know how we all feel about that. So it tells you something. It also is wildly disappointing, right? It's wildly disappointing for everybody, not just Oklahoma fans and whatnot, because you already know how they feel, but LSU, they want to beat up on a good football team. They want a good football team to play. And most of us who would think of ourselves as neutral, just wanting to see these two offenses and these two defenses go at each other, would love to see them with their full complement of players and get a really good football game in Atlanta on December 28th. I was talking with the president and CEO of Peach Bowl Inc., puts on the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl earlier this morning about how excited he was. His name is Gary Stokin. He's a really cool dude. Talked with him on my radio show about it. All of that seems to go out the window if you don't have these guys ready to play and you don't have these guys ready to go. Again, we don't know if they were suspended, but you're going to make up your own mind about that. I'm doing my job here in walking this line that I have shown you and that I will not cross, right? But SoonerScoop reported this, so that is there. Lincoln Riley did not confirm nor deny. He just said, I can't talk about it. And the more he was asked about it, the testier he got. Shout out to Barry Tramel, Tyler Palmatier, Garen Emig, and yes, John Hoover, who asked the difficult questions that nobody else sat there and asked. And I get that some people would want to drag Barry and even Hoove, but you wouldn't know if they didn't ask because Lincoln wasn't going to come out and just talk about it. Now, getting toward the back of early signing day, he's very excited about these guys that he brought in. Bryson Washington feels like a sneaky good signing. He talked about how committed he was and how happy they were to get him because length and speed have been a priority for Alex Grinch and his defensive backs. Well, he's the defensive back coach. He's a safeties coach. Roy Manning, who is the cornerbacks coach. But also watching Lincoln talk about how quarterback recruiting doesn't necessarily change because of the transfer portal, and he doesn't necessarily think he needs to depend on the transfer portal, was interesting because he also kind of underlined in there, hey, look, once I knew that Kyler was going pro, then I came up with what does my room look like? What do we need in the room? And he settled on Jalen Hurts. So it feels like that's something that he's actually just going to put aside until the end of the year and try to figure out where he feels he needs a quarterback, if he needs a quarterback, because there is no quarterback in this 2020 class, which probably made it really difficult to recruit better players or players that you wanted, i.e. Jace McClellans of the world. I also thought it was really interesting to hear him comment on Caleb Kelly's situation because Caleb Kelly is reaching the threshold where if you play more than 4 games, you no longer get to keep your red shirt. And we all know that he had a knee injury that forced him to miss most of the season. He came back. He's played in all the games that he's been available to play in. And Riley said, we haven't even come up with a decision yet. And I'm not sure what we want to do. And they thought about even sending in an appeal to the NCAA, but thinking about all the questions that would raise and what that would do, he didn't want to go down that route. So it feels like they're operating under the assumption that if they play him in this playoff and in the eventual national championship game, that his career is over at Oklahoma. How much of this game will really need him, especially if you lose other players. You need his leadership if nothing else. And he's going to travel. I know that for a fact. But also, would you need him next year? What is Kenneth Murray Jr. going to decide to do? Do you feel comfortable about who you compare with Deshaun White, like Levi Draper or even Brian Asamoah? How do you feel about where you're going to be? All these things we're going to unpack more, but I understand you wanted this news. We're getting this news. We'll talk about the other stuff a little bit later. Your list. That's it for me. Deuces.